Soft music plays. A gentle harp note lingers. The voice of the storyteller begins, calm and warm. We step back in time to ancient Greece, a land of myths, temples, and timeless skies. Among the gods of Olympus, one figure shines with wisdom and quiet strength. Her name is Athena, born not of pain, but of light and thought, springing fully formed. She is more than a goddess of war. She is wisdom, craft, and protector of the innocent. Athena holds a shield, not to strike, but to guard those who need safety and care. She carries the owl, a symbol of deep knowledge and watchful vision in the night. The olive tree is her gift, a promise of peace, food, and shelter for the people. Her story is not one of battles, but of guidance, justice, and compassion. She is the protector of women, offering courage and dignity in moments of trial. She is the guardian of children, nurturing curiosity and lighting the path of learning. In every corner of Athens, her spirit was felt in schools, in homes, in the hearts of all. Today we journey into her world to uncover the lessons she still whispers to us. This is the story of Athena, the protector of women and children. The story of Athena begins with a moment unlike any other in the myths of Olympus. The great Zeus, ruler of gods and keeper of thunder, carried a secret deep within him. He had swallowed the goddess Metis, the spirit of wisdom, to keep her power inside. From that choice came a strange weight, a pressure that grew stronger with each passing day. The gods looked on, uncertain, as Zeus held his head with pain no storm could match. Then, in a burst of light, from the very crown of Zeus's mind, a figure appeared. Athena emerged, not as an infant, but as a goddess already tall, radiant, and complete. Her eyes shone clear as the skies over Greece, steady and filled with unshaken vision. Clothed in armor, yet untouched by battle, she held the dignity of wisdom in her form. Her birth was not of blood or chaos, but of thought, reason, and divine intelligence. The gods marveled, for no cry of fear or helplessness marked her first breath. Instead, her arrival spoke of clarity, the mind of Zeus taking shape in living form. The heavens stirred, but not with thunder or war, rather with awe and calm reverence. From the beginning, Athena stood apart, a goddess born of mind, not of passion. She was the symbol of insight, of choices made with care, of paths seen before walked. Unlike other deities who thrived on force or desire, she embodied balance and light. The myths recall her armor, her shield, her spear, but each held a deeper truth. The shield was safety, the spear was resolve, and the armor was dignity unbroken. Athena was not meant to frighten, but to protect and to guide with steady hand. The gods hailed her, for they saw in her a guardian of justice and wisdom. She stood tall beside Zeus, not in shadow, but in her own radiant strength. Her owl appeared as her companion, its eyes wide and its wings silent in flight. The bird carried the vision of the night, seeing where others saw only darkness. The olive tree came later, but its roots were already growing within her essence. It was the promise of peace, of food, of homes built safely under its branches. From that first day, Athena carried with her a presence that reassured and calmed. Mothers prayed to her for safety. Children whispered her name before sleep. Not because she promised power, but because she offered comfort and protection. Her story spread beyond Olympus, carried on voices of poets and echoes of temples. To the people of Greece, Athena was more than myth. She was part of daily life. In the stillness of dawn, in the rhythm of weaving, in the courage of learning. Her birth was not only the rise of a goddess, but the dawn of a guiding spirit. A spirit who would remind mortals that strength without wisdom leads to ruin. A spirit who would guard women with dignity and children with gentle light. The myths remember her as warrior, but her first moment was one of clarity. Born in brilliance, born in silence, born in wisdom, Athena came forth. Her journey as protector had just begun, yet her presence was already eternal. This is how the goddess of wisdom entered the world, complete, calm, and unafraid. Athena grew not only as a goddess of presence, but as a guardian of wisdom itself. Her name became a beacon for those who sought clarity when the world seemed uncertain. Wisdom was her gift, and it flowed not as lectures, but as quiet guidance and steady insight. The people believed that every thoughtful choice carried a touch of Athena's spirit. She was not the loudest voice, but the calm one that steadied hearts in restless times. Unlike gods who commanded with power, Athena taught by showing paths unseen by others. She held the map of reason in her mind, a compass for leaders and dreamers alike. Kings called upon her when disputes rose, for her judgment was fair and balanced. She weighed not only the outcome, but the dignity of those affected by each choice. To her, true wisdom was not clever tricks, but justice woven with compassion. Her counsel was sought not only in temples, but in the quiet thoughts of ordinary lives. Farmers looked to her for patience, builders for vision, and mothers for protection. Athena's wisdom stretched beyond power, touching every corner of daily existence. Her owl symbolized this vision, reminding mortals to see through shadows into truth. Eyes wide in darkness, the owl mirrored Athena's gift of finding clarity in silence. She taught that wisdom is not only knowing, but listening, watching, and waiting with care. In the tales of poets, Athena's words often prevented harm before it could even begin. She was the strategist, guiding with thought rather than force, planning without cruelty. For her, every decision was a tapestry, each thread carefully placed in harmony. Weaving was her art, but also her metaphor for the weaving of lives and futures. Athena reminded mortals that every choice, no matter how small, shaped tomorrow. Her wisdom was not cold calculation, but a flame that warmed hearts with guidance. Children who learned their first letters felt her hand steady their eager attempts. Young women who faced challenges felt her whisper, courage with dignity, mind with strength. Her protection was never loud, yet it was steady, like a shield carried quietly at one side. The Greeks saw in her the very image of intelligence joined with compassion. She was not only wise for herself, but for all who sought light beyond confusion. Myths tell us that even heroes needed her wisdom before their quests began. Odysseus leaned on her counsel, not her weapons, in moments of greatest trial. Perseus too received her thoughtful guidance, a light to navigate daunting paths. Yet Athena's gift was never reserved only for heroes, but for every seeking soul. She belonged to those who wondered, who asked, who sought to know and understand. Her temples were not just places of worship, but schools of thought and learning. There, children gathered to hear stories, and thinkers shared ideas under her name. The city of Athens grew with her as its heart, its wisdom shining like her olive tree. In every leaf of that tree was the reminder that peace and reason feed the world. Athena's wisdom was never about victory alone, but about harmony and balance. For to her, the greatest triumph was not in conquest, but in understanding. She lifted wisdom as a crown, teaching that knowledge is the noblest form of strength. Through her, people saw that thought, kindness, and fairness could protect better than force. This is why Athena remains eternal, a goddess whose wisdom shaped both gods and mortals. Her light did not fade with temples or marble, but still lingers in every thoughtful act. The wisdom of Athena is the quiet voice reminding us, choose with care, act with justice. And so her story continues, wherever knowledge and compassion are held as sacred. Athena's story is forever tied to a city that would bear her name and spirit. In the days when the land of Attica sought a divine protector, two gods stepped forward. Poseidon, lord of the sea, raised his mighty hand to claim the people as his own. He struck the ground, and from the earth rose a stream of salt water, powerful and loud. The people marveled, yet the gift tasted of the sea, vast but harsh, restless and wild. Then came Athena, calm and radiant, holding in her hand a branch of deep green. She bent and placed it into the soil, and from it grew a tall and noble olive tree. Its leaves shimmered silver in the sun, its roots promised shelter, food, and endless peace. The people saw in it more than a tree. They saw hope for homes, harvests, and harmony. Where Poseidon offered power, Athena offered life, wisdom, and lasting prosperity. The gods watched as the people chose, and their choice was for Athena and her gift. From that moment, the city was named Athens, a tribute to her blessing and care. The olive tree stood in the heart of the city, its branches stretching like open arms. It became a symbol not of war, but of peace, growth, and the strength of community. Through the tree, Athena showed that true guardianship meant more than force or command. It meant nurturing, guiding, and offering gifts that endure beyond storms and time. The Athenians built great temples in her honor, carved in marble, kissed by sunlight. Most famous among them rose the Parthenon, standing proud upon the Acropolis. Its columns reached to the sky, a hymn of stone dedicated to wisdom and protection. Inside, her statue stood tall, gleaming with gold, her eyes calm, her posture steady. Yet beyond stone and gold, her presence was felt in every act of learning and peace. Children gathered under the olive branches, listening to stories of her gentle power. Mothers prayed at dawn, asking her to bless their homes with safety and guidance. Fathers looked to her when deciding disputes, trusting her sense of justice and fairness. Athena was not distant, but woven into the life of every street, school, and marketplace. Her wisdom lived in councils, where leaders sought reason over anger and decisions. Her spirit shone in craftspeople who wove and carved with patience and dedication. Every corner of Athens carried her name, her symbol, her promise of balance and light. Even in times of hardship, the olive trees reminded people of her constant care. They pressed its fruit into oil, a gift that fed, warmed, and illuminated their nights. They wove its branches into crowns, symbols of peace and victory without bloodshed. The city prospered, not through conquest alone, but through wisdom and learning. Philosophers spoke her name as they searched for truth beneath the open sky. Children learning letters felt her presence as curiosity blossomed into knowledge. Women at the loom found her guidance in every thread, woven with steady hands. Athena's city became a living reflection of her gift. Strong, wise, and deeply human. The world beyond Greece looked upon Athens and saw a city rooted in thought. A city where ideas blossomed as richly as the olives on Athena's sacred tree. It was here that art, philosophy, and democracy took root, shaped by her spirit. Athens stood as her legacy, a living temple of wisdom greater than marble or stone. For Athena was not only protector of walls, but of minds, hearts, and futures. Her gift to the city was not only a tree, but a vision of what people could become. And so Athens thrived, carrying her name, her light, and her protection for all time. Athena's role in myth was not only to guard cities, but to nurture the strength of women. In a world often shaped by the voices of men, her presence gave women courage to rise. She was the goddess who proved that wisdom and dignity were forms of power unshaken. Women saw in her a mirror of strength that did not need to shout to be heard. Her stories became reminders that intellect and courage could shine brighter than force. In every loom where women wove cloth, Athena's spirit guided their patient hands. The threads became symbols of resilience, each pattern a mark of dignity and grace. Weaving was more than craft. It was storytelling. It was destiny in motion. Athena showed that creation itself was a kind of power, gentle yet unbreakable. Mothers whispered prayers to her, asking for courage in raising children with love. Young women carried her name as a symbol of protection in times of trial. She was not only the patron of queens and noble women, but of every daughter at the hearth. Her presence offered the assurance that thought and fairness could win respect. Unlike gods who demanded offerings of grandeur, Athena honored the quiet devotion of women. The Greeks told stories where she stood beside women who chose dignity over despair. Athena taught that silence was not weakness, and patience was not surrender. Instead, they were strengths that could outlast storms and guide choices with clarity. Women who faced hardships saw her as a reminder that endurance is noble. Her shield became a symbol of protection, not only for warriors, but for mothers and daughters. It was said her gaze could steady the most fearful heart, filling it with resolve. Athena did not speak often in myths, yet her presence was constant and sure. Her wisdom was not in words alone, but in the quiet confidence she inspired. She reminded women that their voices mattered, even if the world tried not to hear them. Every temple to Athena was also a refuge, a place where women prayed in trust. They came with worries of childbirth, of family, of dignity, and of daily life. And they left with courage, strengthened by the thought of Athena watching over them. Athena was not only guardian, but teacher, showing that knowledge was a path to freedom. Girls who learned letters felt her presence as curiosity grew into wisdom. She encouraged them to ask, to wonder, and to find strength in understanding. Her myth became a quiet anthem for women, a song of resilience across time. In her, they saw a model of intelligence joined with compassion and calm authority. Her image in armor was not to frighten, but to remind women of their worth. The helmet symbolized clarity, the spear resilience, the owl wisdom, and the olive tree peace. Together, they formed a portrait of a goddess who uplifted, not dominated. Athena's stories carried into the lives of women long after temples crumbled. She was remembered not only in marble, but in the strength of daily acts, in weaving, in teaching, in guiding families. Her spirit lived in every steady hand. Women across generations saw her not as distant, but as present in their lives. Her story spoke to their struggles, their endurance, and their quiet victories. Athena remains a symbol of women's courage, wisdom, and the dignity of protection. Her lessons whisper still: to hold one's head high, to act with thought, to live with grace. Through her, women discovered that strength comes not only in battle, but in resilience. And so Athena continues to inspire, a protector who sees, understands, and uplifts women. Athena's care reached beyond women, for she was also a guardian of children and their innocence. In ancient Greece, children were seen as blessings, fragile yet full of promise for the future. Athena's presence was felt in their laughter, their learning, and their first steps into the world. Parents prayed to her at night, asking for their children to be safe, curious, and strong. Her wisdom was believed to rest over cradles, soothing the fears of both mothers and fathers. Athena reminded families that the greatest wealth was not gold, but the joy of children. In myths, she often watched over young heroes, guiding them before their journeys began. She cared not only for their success, but for their hearts, teaching them kindness and justice. Athena's guidance was gentle, a whisper of courage in the ear of a child at play. She was the goddess who believed that even the smallest voice held power and worth. In stories told at firesides, children heard her name and felt protected by her wisdom. They saw her owl in the trees at night, watching, guarding, and promising safety in silence. Teachers in Athens called upon her when teaching letters, trusting her blessing for clarity. Every word a child learned was seen as a gift shaped by Athena's hand. She loved not only knowledge, but the joy of discovery in the eyes of the young. Her temples became places where children gathered, not in fear, but in wonder. They traced patterns on stone floors, imagining her footsteps walking beside them. She was the unseen guide when they asked questions, reminding them never to stop seeking. Athena's protection did not mean shielding from every trial, but offering strength to endure. She taught children that mistakes were steps, and that growth came through patience. Her myths reminded them that wisdom is not instant, but blooms slowly like the olive tree. Children who grew under her care learned that fairness was as noble as bravery. They were taught to stand for truth, to listen, and to show kindness without weakness. Athena's love for children was a love for the future, for the world yet to be shaped. She saw in them the builders of cities, the keepers of peace, the seekers of knowledge. When they played, she watched with delight, seeing imagination as the seed of wisdom. When they cried, she offered comfort, reminding them that resilience grows with care. Mothers told bedtime stories of Athena, the wise protector who kept nightmares away. Fathers pointed to the olive trees and said, "There lives the blessing of Athena for you." In every laugh, in every lesson, her spirit lived, present though unseen. The Athenians believed that no child was alone, for Athena's gaze was always near. Her shield was not for war, but for the fragile hearts of children in their innocence. Her owl was not a hunter but a guardian, a symbol of watchfulness in the night. The olive tree was not only food, but a promise that children would never be without. She was not only goddess of wisdom, but of growth, of guidance, and of gentle care. Her role as protector of children was not separate, but part of her very essence. For wisdom is wasted if it does not nurture the young to carry it forward. Athena understood that children are the foundation of every city, every hope, every dream. To guard them was to guard the future, to protect peace, yet unwritten. And so, in myths and prayers, she is remembered not only in armor, but in love. Athena, protector of children, whose wisdom shaped not only heroes, but every child. Athena's wisdom was not distant. It was woven into the daily lives of families in Greece. She was present when mothers taught their children to speak with kindness and clarity. She was present when fathers guided their sons to value fairness above pride. Her influence was not only in great myths, but in the simple lessons of home and hearth. Children learned to respect elders because Athena taught that wisdom comes with age. They learned to share because she showed that generosity builds peace between hearts. Athena's gift was not to hand down riches, but to plant seeds of virtue in every life. Her olive tree stood as a reminder that patience and care bring lasting rewards. The fruit did not appear overnight, but grew with time, like the character of a child. Families gathered beneath olive branches, telling stories of Athena's gentle protection. They whispered of her courage and of her wisdom that outshone anger and pride. Athena was said to smile upon homes where love and fairness were guiding lights. She was guardian not only of cities, but of kitchens, cradles, and quiet family moments. In her stories, even the smallest actions carried meaning, teaching values that endured. A child who helped a friend was as noble as a warrior who stood in defense of Athens. A daughter who spoke truth was as brave as a hero who faced a mighty trial. Athena taught that courage wore many forms. Not all of them carried shields or spears. She lifted the quiet acts of kindness into the realm of noble deeds. Through her, families learned that greatness begins with honesty and compassion. The Greeks believed that Athena's spirit moved through their homes like a quiet flame. She gave warmth, she gave light, and she gave strength to endure the storms of life. Mothers told daughters that Athena listened when they prayed for safety and wisdom. Fathers told sons that Athena guided those who led with fairness and respect. Children grew strong not only in body, but in mind and in heart under her gaze. Her presence was like a steady hand on the shoulder, unseen but always guiding. Athena's temple stood in cities, but her true sanctuary was within the family. It was there she nurtured the virtues that would grow into justice and harmony. A child who learned kindness at home would one day bring peace to the polis. A daughter who grew wise at the loom would one day teach her own children resilience. Athena's love was generational, passing from mother to child, from family to city. Her protection was more than defense. It was the assurance that wisdom would endure. She was not a goddess who shouted commands, but one who inspired with calm strength. Her lessons were not written on stone, but written in the actions of daily life. She taught that fairness in the home created fairness in the city. She showed that respect between siblings could grow into peace among nations. Her influence reached far, yet always began in the intimacy of family bonds. The Greeks believed that in every just home, Athena was quietly present. She needed no shrine to dwell there, only love, honesty, and courage among kin. And so Athena became not just protector of women and children, but of family itself. Through her, the hearth was sacred, the home a temple of wisdom and protection. Athena's wisdom was not limited to temples and homes. It shaped the very heart of Athens itself. The city bore her name, a living tribute to her guidance and protective spirit. She was not only its guardian, but its teacher, reminding Athenians of the value of thought. Athens became known not for conquest, but for philosophy, art, and law inspired by her. The olive tree she gifted to the city became a symbol of peace and prosperity. It grew in the sacred grounds of the Acropolis, a reminder of patience and resilience. Each leaf whispered her lessons, that peace builds stronger than war, and wisdom lasts longer than pride. Athenians believed that to honor Athena was to honor fairness, knowledge, and civic duty. Her presence was felt in the agora, where citizens debated laws and shared ideas freely. It was said she walked unseen among them, guiding the course of their discussions. Her wisdom urged them to seek truth, to weigh decisions carefully, and to act with justice. Children in Athens grew up hearing that their goddess favored minds that questioned. Athena was not pleased by blind obedience, but by the courage to think and to speak. She blessed the artists who carved marble into beauty, seeing creativity as divine. She blessed the poets who turned words into stories, keeping wisdom alive for generations. She blessed the lawmakers who wrote rules of fairness, creating harmony in the city. Her spirit flowed through Athens, shaping it into a place where thought was sacred. The people believed her gaze made their city a beacon of wisdom for the world. Even in times of trial, Athena's presence steadied the hearts of Athens' people. They believed that as long as they honored her, their city would endure. The Parthenon rose as her great temple, filled with offerings of devotion and respect. But Athena needed no gold or jewels, for her true treasure was wisdom in action. Every act of fairness, every pursuit of knowledge, every moment of peace honored her. Her blessing was not for those who sought power for themselves, but for those who served others. She reminded Athens that strength without wisdom was fragile, and wisdom without compassion was hollow. In her, the Athenians saw a protector who valued both strength and gentleness. She lifted the city beyond survival, teaching it to thrive through knowledge and justice. Children were taught that Athens was not great because of its walls, but because of its wisdom. They learned that their goddess gave them not weapons, but the olive tree of peace. Her lessons shaped not only rulers, but every citizen who carried civic duty in their heart. She whispered to the craftsmen, to the farmers, to the teachers, and to the leaders alike. Athena's influence spread far beyond Athens, but her heart remained within its stones. Travelers spoke of the city of wisdom, guided by a goddess of thought and care. They returned home inspired, carrying with them seeds of her teaching to distant lands. Athena's protection of Athens was not only for the city, but for all who sought wisdom. Her story taught that a city devoted to justice and knowledge could outlast empires. She gave Athens more than her name. She gave it a soul of resilience and learning. And so the city flourished, carrying her spirit into its art, its debates, and its dreams. Athena, protector of Athens, protector of women and children, guardian of wisdom for all. Athena's wisdom was not locked in temples or guarded by priests. It lived in the craft of daily life. She was the goddess of skill, and her gifts reached hands that shaped the world with patience. Every loom that clicked and clacked in homes echoed with her quiet guidance. Weaving was more than thread and cloth. It was order pulled from chaos, a symbol of wisdom. Women told stories through patterns, each design carrying memory, dignity, and hope. Athena's spirit was said to move through their hands, steadying and inspiring creation. Her gift of weaving was not only for women, but for anyone who honored craft and care. In her, artistry was equal to wisdom, for both required patience, vision, and clarity. The Greeks believed that to create with purpose was to honor Athena's divine gift. She reminded them that true beauty was not in excess, but in balance and harmony. A woven cloth could clothe, protect, and preserve, showing that beauty could also serve. Athena loved works that joined function with grace, strength with simplicity. She taught that the act of making was itself sacred, for it mirrored the work of creation. Every craft, from pottery to sculpture, carried her quiet presence. Makers prayed to her for inspiration, and many claimed to feel her hand guide theirs. Children learning to weave were told that Athena watched with pride at their first threads. Each mistake was not failure, but a lesson, reminding them that patience shapes mastery. Through craft, Athena taught that skill and wisdom are siblings, both born of practice. She gave not only tools, but the spirit to use them with care and intention. Her gift to Athens was the olive tree, not only for food, but for wood and oil. From its branches came bowls, lamps, and tools, symbols of craft that sustained life. Every household that used olive oil honored Athena in their daily bread and light. Her presence was not distant, but lived in every act of making, mending, and shaping. Athena was said to stand beside those who worked with integrity, no matter their task. She blessed the farmer who cared for soil, the potter who turned clay, the mason who built. Each act of creation was a prayer, each finished work a quiet offering to her. Athena valued not only strength of body, but the skill of hands and clarity of mind. She showed that wisdom was not only spoken, but woven, molded, and carved into being. Through her, the Greeks came to see labor not as burden, but as dignity. A city flourished not by conquest alone, but by the works of artisans and makers. Athena's gift of craft was a gift of survival and beauty intertwined. She gave resilience through tools and meaning through the things people shaped. To weave was to tell a story, to carve was to capture truth, to build was to honor time. Athena's presence in craft uplifted the everyday into something eternal. Her lessons whispered that creation was not lesser than battle, but its equal. For in weaving, one shapes order. In carving, one shapes memory. In building, one shapes future. The Greeks saw that through craft, they honored not only themselves, but their goddess. Athena's protection was not only a shield, but the tools she placed in human hands. Her spirit reminded them that to create was also to protect, to preserve, and to uplift. And so, every woven cloth, every carved stone, every crafted vessel carried her blessing. Through Athena, the act of making became sacred, a bond between wisdom and daily life. She was the guardian of craft, the protector of those who shaped with patience and love. Her spirit endures wherever human hands create with care, guided by wisdom and purpose. Athena's wisdom was not kept only for gods or rulers. It was shared with those who sought to learn. She was the goddess who valued questions, and every curious mind found her as a quiet guide. Children who traced letters in the dust were believed to have her blessing in their studies. Teachers invoked her name at the start of lessons, asking for clarity and insight for their pupils. For Athena knew that learning was not a burden, but a gift, a light that guided futures. She favored not the loudest student, but the one who listened, reflected, and questioned. Her owl, symbol of watchful wisdom, reminded students that silence often holds answers. The Greeks believed that whenever a child opened a scroll, Athena's spirit leaned close. She whispered patience, urging them to keep learning even when knowledge felt distant. In her presence, learning was not about pride, but about the joy of discovery. Athena showed that to learn was to grow, and to grow was to honor life itself. She did not demand brilliance, only effort, honesty, and the courage to think deeply. The young learned history, philosophy, and art under her gaze, believing wisdom was sacred. Athena's gift was not only knowledge, but the ability to use it with fairness and care. For what good was learning, she reminded them, if it was not shared for the greater good? She watched over scribes who copied words, ensuring stories and laws endured for generations. She guided philosophers who asked about truth, justice, and the nature of the soul. Her presence was felt in quiet libraries, where thought itself became an offering to her. She loved not only answers, but the courage to face uncertainty with open eyes. Athena's protection of learning extended beyond scholars, reaching every curious spirit. Farmers who studied the seasons were said to feel her wisdom in their harvests. Mothers teaching children to speak clearly honored Athena with every patient word. Craftsmen who perfected their trades believed she guided their hands toward mastery. Athena taught that learning was everywhere, in books, in fields, in families, in mistakes. Her lesson was clear. Wisdom is not a treasure to keep, but a torch to pass on. Children who grew under her guidance were told they carried her spirit into the future. They would become leaders, poets, teachers, healers, each carrying Athena's blessing of thought. Her myths told of her love for clever solutions and for those who used reason over force. She admired those who solved problems with clarity, fairness, and patience. In this way, she reminded her followers that knowledge was a shield as strong as bronze. Wisdom could prevent battles, heal disputes, and bring peace where anger once grew. Athena's influence made Athens a city where thought was honored as much as strength. The agora became a place of questions, where every debate carried her silent guidance. Even children were encouraged to ask, to speak, and to grow through dialogue. Athena's wisdom turned learning into a sacred act, a bond between the divine and mortal. She showed that no question was too small, for each could open the door to truth. Her protection of learning ensured that knowledge was never feared, but cherished. Generations honored her by teaching, writing, and seeking, never letting wisdom fade. Athena's story reminds us that learning is not only for the young, but for all. It is the lifelong journey she blesses, from first words to final reflections. Through her, the Greeks saw that wisdom was not an end, but a way of life. Athena, protector of learning, whose light still shines in every curious heart. Athena's guidance was not only in temples and schools, it lived in the courts of justice and the laws of cities. She was the goddess who stood beside those seeking fairness, balancing the scales with her clear wisdom. The Greeks believed she shaped Athens into a place where justice was sacred and reason was honored. Athena taught that true power was not in force, but in the ability to resolve disputes with fairness. Her presence was felt when voices rose in the agora, yet calm returned through reason and dialogue. She inspired the first courts, where the citizens could speak and be heard under her watchful gaze. Athena was said to whisper to judges, reminding them that each decision shaped the soul of the city. She guided them to weigh truth, not wealth, to honor honesty, not power. Her wisdom urged that no voice be silenced, and that even the humble deserved to be heard. The Greeks told stories of her appearing in trials to defend the innocent and guide the guilty to remorse. She was not a goddess of punishment, but of balance, restoring harmony where anger broke peace. Her shield, the aegis, became a symbol not of war, but of protection for the vulnerable. In her eyes, justice was not about revenge, but about building trust among people. Athena loved reasoned debate, where truth was revealed through words instead of weapons. She guided orators to speak with clarity, to persuade without deceit, to convince without cruelty. For her, the power of speech was equal to the power of the sword, but far more lasting. She showed that laws must serve not the rulers, but the people they governed. Athena's presence made Athens a city of democracy, where citizens had voice and choice. She inspired the creation of councils where decisions were made together, not by one alone. In this way, she protected not just individuals, but the very fabric of community. Athena taught that justice and wisdom were bound together, each incomplete without the other. A city with strength but no fairness would fall, but one with justice could endure storms. She urged leaders to see beyond pride, to rule with humility and care for the smallest voice. Mothers told children that Athena watched every promise, every oath, every word of truth. They grew believing that honesty was sacred and lies dishonored both themselves and their goddess. Athena's justice was not distant. It lived in the choices of every citizen, great and small. She reminded them that every act of fairness was a prayer, every truth spoken an offering. The Greeks knew that in times of conflict, Athena's wisdom could heal what anger had broken. She showed that forgiveness was strength, that understanding was greater than vengeance. Her presence turned courts into places of reason, not fear and debate into acts of honor. She inspired not fear of punishment, but respect for fairness, a deeper bond among people. Athena's light and justice reached beyond Athens, echoing wherever fairness was sought. Her spirit reminded the world that laws are sacred when they protect, not when they oppress. She stood beside those who spoke truth, even when it was difficult, even when it was lonely. Her wisdom whispered that justice is not an end, but a way of living with honor. Through her, Athens grew not only strong in body, but strong in trust and fairness. Generations carried her lessons into every council, court, and quiet choice of honesty. Athena, protector of justice, still speaks in every act of fairness, every word of truth. Athena's guidance was not only in temples and schools, it lived in the courts of justice and the laws of cities. She was the goddess who stood beside those seeking fairness, balancing the scales with her clear wisdom. The Greeks believed she shaped Athens into a place where justice was sacred and reason was honored. Athena taught that true power was not in force, but in the ability to resolve disputes with fairness. Her presence was felt when voices rose in the agora, yet calm returned through reason and dialogue. She inspired the first courts, where citizens could speak and be heard under her watchful gaze. Athena was said to whisper to judges, reminding them that each decision shaped the soul of the city. She guided them to weigh truth, not wealth, to honor honesty, not power. Her wisdom urged that no voice be silenced, and that even the humble deserved to be heard. The Greeks told stories of her appearing in trials to defend the innocent and guide the guilty to remorse. She was not a goddess of punishment, but of balance, restoring harmony where anger broke peace. Her shield, the aegis, became a symbol not of war, but of protection for the vulnerable. In her eyes, justice was not about revenge, but about building trust among people. Athena loved reasoned debate, where truth was revealed through words instead of weapons. She guided orators to speak with clarity, to persuade without deceit, to convince without cruelty. For her, the power of speech was equal to the power of the sword, but far more lasting. She showed that laws must serve not the rulers, but the people they governed. Athena's presence made Athens a city of democracy, where citizens had voice and choice. She inspired the creation of councils where decisions were made together, not by one alone. In this way, she protected not just individuals, but the very fabric of community. Athena taught that justice and wisdom were bound together, each incomplete without the other. A city with strength but no fairness would fall, but one with justice could endure storms. She urged leaders to see beyond pride, to rule with humility and care for the smallest voice. Mothers told children that Athena watched every promise, every oath, every word of truth. They grew believing that honesty was sacred and lies dishonored both themselves and their goddess. Athena's justice was not distant. It lived in the choices of every citizen, great and small. She reminded them that every act of fairness was a prayer, every truth spoken an offering. The Greeks knew that in times of conflict, Athena's wisdom could heal what anger had broken. She showed that forgiveness was strength, that understanding was greater than vengeance. Her presence turned courts into places of reason, not fear, and debate into acts of honor. She inspired not fear of punishment, but respect for fairness, a deeper bond among people. Athena's light and justice reached beyond Athens, echoing wherever fairness was sought. Her spirit reminded the world that laws are sacred when they protect, not when they oppress. She stood beside those who spoke truth, even when it was difficult, even when it was lonely. Her wisdom whispered that justice is not an end, but a way of living with honor. Through her, Athens grew not only strong in body, but strong in trust and fairness. Generations carried her lessons into every council, court, and quiet choice of honesty. Athena, protector of justice, still speaks in every act of fairness, every word of truth.